Hello there guys, what is going on? Son of Chelsea back here again for my rational perspective on Chelsea 0, Liverpool 2. Chelsea suffer their first defeat of the Premier League season. It's a hard game to talk about. It was a hard game to watch for a majority of it, to be honest, especially following that red card, because the red card, Chelsea don't get a lot of red cards anymore, really. That's a long time since the last one, as they talked about in commentary. I think Timothy Bakayoko was the last Premier League red card we got back in 2018. So that's my sort of feeling about the game. I think it did turn, obviously, very drastically on that red card. I think the unfortunate thing about this game, it's not only on what happened preceding that red card, but also that shot they showed continuously of Christian Pulisic, Ziyech, Chilwell and Silva up in the stands watching the game. And it sort of gives you that context of how far probably we are from seeing the full strength team with all the signings within there. Of course, Edouard Mendy, who I'm sure will be confirmed as a Chelsea player very, very soon. And that's very relevant to this game as well, as we'll get into. Before we get into any of that, guys, I want to ask you guys, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and a notification bell so you never miss an upload. Also hit the like button if you're enjoying the content, because it helps out the channel as well. It's not a good one to talk about, optimism, but I'll try and, look at the game and take out some of the positives, because I do think there was a couple in there. It was interesting looking at the team for me going into the game. The lineup not very different to the team that started against Brighton. I believe it was only one change, and that was Mateo Kovacic back from suspension in for Ruben Loftus-Cheek. So then you were sort of looking at the team and thinking, once again, are we going to have that problem of fluidity, of width within the team like we did against Brighton? I feel for me, that first half, it felt similar in ways to the first half against Manchester City. If you remember back in, I think it was June, wasn't it, when the Premier League restarted, that really good win for Chelsea. I feel that Chelsea actually performed pretty well in that first half in terms of containing Liverpool, defensively looking very solid and structured. I feel that the back two were working well once again. I felt that Kovacic was having a brilliant game. He really was adding that thing that we lacked against Brighton, that connector player, getting from defence to midfield, press resistance, evading challenges. There was one in particular time, unfortunately, a move broke down where he got through. It was a really nice fluid piece of play. I think Havertz was connecting with it as well, and then you got it out to Werner. And I felt earlier on in that game, as we saw originally when it was set up, that Timo Werner wasn't playing as a striker. He's playing out wide, Kai Havertz as the forward, almost a false nine, I guess you could say, and Mason Mount on the right, which was interesting to me. And it was quite clear that Chelsea wants to exploit the space between Alexander-Arnold and Fabinho, who of course was moved back to central defender today for Liverpool. I think that was probably maybe one of the first times he played there. And I felt as the game was going on, you could see definitely that could be very effective for Chelsea. And it was seeming to me, if we could get into half-time at 0-0 before that red card, I think there was a lot to be optimistic about. Chelsea at set pieces looked very solid compared to other weekends. I think we got that very much spot on within the game, to be honest. We limited Liverpool in that first half to very little in terms of in front of our goal. I actually think if you were to tally up the actual shots on our goal and the actual created chances within that first half preceding that red card, Timo Werner had one wide. I think, of course, Werner missing another chance from Havertz, but I do believe that would have probably been called for offside with VAR if it did hit the back of the net. But then you have to come to, of course, the red card. It's a red card, obviously it is. And I think it just showed you the one moment where Chelsea committed men forward really for the first time in that half, like getting Reece James up the pitch, getting Alonso up the pitch, and just one brilliant ball from Jordan Henderson through to Sadio Mane. It's always one of those things, isn't it, when you look back at the replay and you go, well, why doesn't Christensen just allow Mane to go through? Potentially he scores a goal, they go 1-0 up, or Kepa clears it. Potentially Kepa takes out Mane and he could have been sent off as well. It's always one of those moments, and I think it's such a shame for Christensen, because I felt that not only in the Brighton game but leading up to that, I thought he was having a really strong game, and you felt that this could be a massive moment for Christensen. But, he takes out Mane, it's a clear red card, and from there, the game just absolutely alters. I do want to say one thing to me whilst watching the game, and this was present before. I think it was one of the problems Chelsea had throughout the game that I think was present before the red card, actually. A lack of a focal point up top in Kai Havertz playing there. It was more a case that Chelsea, when we did, were able to evade the press, mostly through the use of Mateo Kovacic. Chelsea played well, and we could get it out to the likes of Werner and try and start attacks. I think the problem was when Liverpool Liverpool pressed us and we couldn't get out through passing, and Kepa or one of the centre-backs hit it long, we didn't have that focal point. And that's where, as people talked about before the game, Olivier Giroud could have come into this game and potentially been that focal point to help Werner out, lay it off to Werner. And Giroud's so good at that. And I felt in previous games against Liverpool, the FA Cup win last season, Giroud really dealt with Van Dijk well. I think he got the better of him physically, and I think that was something that I think we lacked preceding and also after the red card, because you go into half-time, it's 0-0, Fikayo Tomori comes on for Kai Havertz. It was great to see Tomori, and I actually think Tomori had a really strong half, actually. I was really impressed by Tomori, and hopefully all this rumour about him going on loan may change because Rudiger was not in the squad today. That's an interesting thing. We'll have to wait and see on that one, but I felt it was nice to see Tomori. I think naturally you felt with Thiago coming on as well that Liverpool were just going to dominate the ball even more. They dominated the ball for a lot of it in the first half, but I felt that it was just going to be so difficult for Chelsea. A lack of a focal point, once again, down to 10 men against a really good Liverpool side. And they turned up the gears, didn't they? They got through us, and it was down that left, Marcos Alonso, who I felt dealt well with the threats in the first half, but couldn't that time. And I think that just shows you why Chelsea need Ben Chilwell in this team, the acceleration. It was an easy 1-2, easy header for Mane. It's 1-0. And then, of course, rapidly after that, we get the blunder from Kepa. Just awful for Kepa. I think it's the first real, Christmas DVD goalkeeping blunder mistake we've had from Kepa, in terms of a lot of it has been, dominating his area or shots from outside the box. Today, you saw just a comical moment for Kepa, and it just summed up what we already know, Mendy coming into the team now, and it was just horrible. It was a horrible moment. And I did fear then that it was going to turn into a really awful day. Like, I thought that Liverpool would gain more confidence. They'd score 3, maybe 4, and especially at home so early on in the season, I thought that could really damage our sort of confidence going forward. Fortunately, that did not happen. And to be honest, I think a lot of it was down to Timo Werner once again, who I think looked very sharp throughout the game and was really working hard throughout the game, to be honest. And of course, won us that penalty with 15 minutes to go. And Jorginho, just typical, his almost faultless record at penalties for Chelsea comes to an end. It was a poor penalty, to be honest, and I don't know if there was something, considering the game, the mentality of the game, that Jorginho wasn't as focused with that penalty, because he's usually amazing at them. That could have given us some sort of hope, a route back into the game, but unfortunately it didn't, and then the game basically dragged out from there. I mean, Kepa had to make a couple more saves to sort of prevent it going to 3. But yeah, it's so difficult, isn't it, for me to sort of judge this game, and I think for a lot of you, because once that red card happens and they scored the 2 goals early on in that second half, the game's dead effectively. And maybe you could look at it and go, does Frank in the first place play Giroud instead of Kai Havertz in that sort of number 9 role? Should Christensen let Mane go through, potentially score against Kepa? We're 1-0 down, but at least we have 11 men for the second half. It's a sliding doors moment. It rapidly changes the momentum of the game. I feel that Chelsea were gaining confidence in that first half, and I felt that if it stayed the way it was, there was optimism going into that second half that Chelsea could do something today. But unfortunately, that wasn't the way it played out. And Liverpool, a brilliant side, punished us in that second half. One of them was a really well-worked move. The other was a goalkeeping blunder once again, and all the focus will go to Kepa once again today, and rightly so, because it's just not good enough for a Chelsea goalkeeper, and it is a bit comical. And maybe that's, the end point of Kepa's time at being a Chelsea goalkeeper. I do think it's another thing as well to maybe criticise Lampard with is, I don't know why he kept on playing Kepa, because, giving Kepa that second chance, I understand that, but, he should have saved the shot for me against Brighton. Playing him again in a game like this, I know the circumstances and the narrative of the game, the way it played out, it wasn't down to Kepa. I think we lost today. It was down to, I think, a red card, and then, of course, Liverpool dominating the game, but it was a massive blunder. At 1-0, once again, these things, they swing, momentum changes in games. It's very difficult to know how the game would have played out. It was very much leaning in the direction that Liverpool were going to go and dominate the game and take control, especially with Thiago on the pitch and gaining confidence with having an extra man. Those are my thoughts on the game. I think the thing for me overall is waiting to see Chelsea at full strength, and hopefully that won't be too long away now. I think that's the thing for Lampard, and just looking generally at the team when you're able to judge them based on this season's squad, because when you've got players like Christian Pulisic, who we saw last season at Anfield do wonders, when you've got Hakim Ziyech, the delivery to maybe give Timo Werner a little bit more up top, also Thiago Silva, how's he going to impact the back four, Ben Chilwell, the acceleration there to help us in attack but also in defence. Those are things, and as well Edouard Mendy as well, if he comes into the first team. Those are all things that I think, take 5 players out of Liverpool's starting 11 and see what happens to them. I think all those players I've mentioned, I feel will be very key players. But that is it for my thoughts on the game. Please let me know yours in the comments below. Thank you guys so much for taking the time to watch this video. If you did enjoy it, hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you never miss an upload. Follow me on Twitter @SonOfChelsea, and I'll see you again.